Do you have a brilliant startup idea? Visit our website at eapla.com to schedule a Blue Couch meeting and launch your startup journey today.
Welcome back. We're in season 13 of On The Cusp. Matt Snyder, my host, is back with me. And this is really exciting for me because today, this episode is Todd Stanberry, Metro Aviation, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And more.
Yes, sir.
What is Metro Aviation?
So Metro Aviation is a family-owned business. My dad started it in 1982 out of a single-wide trailer in Baton Rouge at right outside the main gate on Plank Road of the Baton Rouge Metro Airport, hence the name Metro Aviation. Very imaginative. He was a marketing major at LSU.
I know he's a KA. He tells Dr. George and I, since we're Kappa Sigs, he tells us that all the time.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. But he actually started Metro as a charter company. So when it started, we weren't in EMS at all. He and a KA brother of his, Josh Speakman, they started a construction business right out of college. It's called Louisiana Hydromulchers. So y'all know what hydromulch is?
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, you do. You just didn't know it had a name. So anytime they're putting in a freeway or interstate and they build up the dirt on both sides, and then there's this funny color green stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's hydromulch. It's basically grass seed and hay. And it makes the grass grow quicker, erosion control.
Yep.
So Dad had one of the first hydromulch trucks in the state of Louisiana.
Wow.
So he and Josh Speakman were sending this truck all over I-49 wasn't a thing yet. They were still paving the way for that. And we're getting contracts in Arkansas and Texas and Mississippi. So they were having to travel long distances to go to these job sites. Well, they were both fixed wing pilots. So they would go rent a little Cessna 172, Baton Rouge Airport, fly to wherever the closest FBO was at the job site they were going to, then rent a car and drive the rest of the way. Well, they did that, half a dozen times, and they're like, okay, this would be a whole lot more efficient if we had a helicopter, because then we could just land at the job site. So he went off and got a little single-engine Instrom. That was Metro's first aircraft. I've got a nice Polaroid of it. And started a charter company to actually pay the note on that one helicopter. He would lease it out, dry lease it to other folks that wanted to go for a joyride or get aerial photography or whatever. And that's why Metro started, was to support Louisiana Hydromulchers. So one thing led to another. He ended up on a hunting trip with a buddy of his who was actually in banking, American Bank in Baton Rouge. And they're on this deer hunting trip, and his buddy's belly aching about, of all things, armored truck drivers. Because back then, this is Jimmy Carter era, right? So interest rates are 18%. Great for bankers, not so great for the rest of us. But he was wanting to get all his cash and deposits down to the Federal Reserve in New Orleans to earn that 18% reciprocating balances, right? So the only way you could do that was with armored trucks. Well, I guess the drivers for these trucks were not reliable. And so he's like, man, it's just a constant battle, like getting this money down there. He's like, well, you need to move your money with a helicopter. He's like, well, how in the hell am I going to do that? He's like, well, it's easy. I've seen this done down in Florida at Sunbank. All you got to do, he's like, you got American flag at all your branches, right? On a big flagpole. He's like, yeah. He's like, we'll get something fast and sporty like a Hughes 500. Y'all ever seen Magnum PI reruns? Okay, that's a Hughes 500.
Okay.
It's like the Ferrari of helicopters, right? So he's like, we'll take the door off the back. We'll have a guy in the back with a long pole, telescoping pole with a hook on the end of it. You put all your cash and checks in one of those big canvas money bags with the leather handles. Run it up your flagpole. We won't even have to land. We'll just come along, put it in a hover right over the top of that flagpole. The hook man will grab the money bag, throw it in the back. We'll go to all your branches around the state and have all your deposits the same day.
Wow.
Back in the Federal Reserve. And he's like, you can do that? That's legal? He's like, yeah, totally,
Yeah.
And so Dad went out on a handshake agreement. This was his first lesson in business. Always get it in writing. And bought 3 Hughes 500D models. And before he could put the first one in service, American Bank sold to another bank in Memphis, and the new owners said, yeah, I don't know about helicopter correspondent banking. Sounds too risky. We're not interested. So he had 3 notes on 3 brand new helicopters and no job.
Oh my gosh.
So he loaded up me and my mom in this old Chevy pickup. I got another good Polaroid of that. He had hand painted it with a paintbrush for some reason. You could see the brush strokes in it. It was terrible. Like this ugly teal green color.
Awesome.
But so we drove up from Baton Rouge to Shreveport. He actually took a meeting with Sister Agnesita, who was the head nun at Schumpert Medical Center, which back in those days, Schumpert was the flagship hospital. And if you wanted anything done, you met with Sister Agnesita. And he ended up going to dinner with her and the station manager for KSLA. So KSLA, still to this day, is right across the street from the main campus at Margaret Place.
Yeah.
He had already met with both of them. He knew they didn't have the money to do it by themselves. So he convinced them to do a joint venture. And this he actually got in writing, and it actually happened. And what we called it was Life I-12. So you had pilot, cameraman in the front left seat of this Hughes 500. There's only 4 seats in it, okay? So pilot, cameraman, flight nurse, folding stretcher in the 4th seat. And they'd fly around getting aerial footage of Shreveport Bossier. They'd get a call for a MVA, motor vehicle accident. They'd go to the scene of the car crash. Before they land at the scene, they'd get aerial footage. Then they'd land. Cameraman and flight nurse would take that folding stretcher, unfold it, get the patient, bring it back to the helicopter. We had retrofitted the doors to open like
back,
this in the side, and took out the center post and put these hard points fore and aft so you could actually attach the stretcher and lay it out. Well, now we had 1 less seat. Remember, there's 4 seats. So cameraman had to stay by the side of the road, but before they left, they'd get the film out of his camera. And they'd go back, and we had built a rooftop helipad on the parking deck at Margaret Place Schumpert Hospital. It's still there too, by the way. And because it was right across the street from the news station, they'd send a courier from across the street as soon as they land to get that can of film. Yes, I said can of film.
Oh, dude, this is awesome.
And then they'd bring the patient down to the ED, and they'd have get the courier to bring the film back. They'd have their footage for the news cycle for the day. And this is 1983, right?
Dual revenue
Facebook,
sources on one flight.
Yeah.
I like that.
And this lasted all of about 6 months. And then Sister Agnesita said, I don't want to share with the news station anymore. This is actually working. We're getting flights. We're getting patients. It's good for the community. I want my own helicopter. So that's when we got into the twin engine, turbine powered, so bigger helicopter. It's called a Bocal Beetle 105. It's a German helicopter. And it was different than the Hughes 500. Instead of side load, it had rear clamshell doors, like a ground ambulance. You load it in from the back. The problem was when you buy a new helicopter, it's not like buying a new car. There's no seats, there's no paint, there's no radios. It's stripped down. It's just a shell of an aircraft. So you got to do all that stuff aftermarket.
Okay.
There was one company that was making a really pitiful medical interior. It was very utilitarian. And so we hired somebody that we thought could do better. And his name is Milton Geltz. He's our managing director. Metro's 43 years old this year. He's been with us for 43 years. He was employee number 3.
Oh
we
my
have
gosh.
1,189 employees now. So we've grown a little bit, but Metro started as really an MRO, maintenance, repair, and overhaul. So we were a maintenance company. We did these completions, right, to complete the aircraft and put an interior in it. Milton actually did our first STC, so supplemental type certificate. That's what the FAA says. It's like an FAA's patent. So you put something on an aircraft, you have to have an STC. So he figured out how to do that for the medical world. And Schumpert was our first operating agreement. So that's the other part of what we do. So we complete them. That's about 30% of our business. And then we operate them for 45 hospitals and health systems all over the country.
And you've got a really proprietary, unique system in your platform right now to where you can tell exactly what that engine is doing.
Yes.
I mean, it's incredible.
Yes, you mentioned Outerlink, so that's something that we're very proud of. It's a separate company. Don Rucker is the president. He's somebody I got to know really well at our church. Don actually had his own company. It was an IT company. He's a private pilot, and his company did a lot of work for local clinicians. So all three of those things kind of came together, and we're like, man, you're quite the unicorn. You need to come see what we're doing over here. And he figured out a way. What we wanted was, you see the movies about airplanes, and they always talk about if there's a crash, where's the black box, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, black boxes are about accident investigation and what happened after the fact. We wanted to build something that was about accident prevention.
Oh, cool.
So the problem with helicopters, unlike the airline world, who's been doing this a long time, there was no black box for helicopters. There was no way to see what was happening live. And so actually way before Don, Milton, who I mentioned, he said he was actually the genesis of this was he was getting tired of settling disputes between flight nurses and pilots. This pilot really scared me, or this flight nurse won't stop chattering, and we need a sterile cockpit and all these things. So Milton goes down to Radio Shack when it was still in business, bought a residential grade home video system because it had a recording device in it, and he could actually play back.
Oh, cool.
He literally duct taped it to the bulkhead of a helicopter, and because that's all there was, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was still after the fact. So fast forward a few years, we found a company in Dallas called North Flight Data Systems that was building the hardware, something kind of like what we wanted. We bought all their assets and moved it under our roof, but we still needed a way to get all that information from the air to the ground. So we found a company in Boston called Outerlink Global Solutions. And it was highly toxic that there were two owners of this company. They hated each other. They couldn't even meet in the same room together. So we did what we do in a lot of situations like this. We bought them and brought all that in-house. Now, we negotiated an agreement with a company called Viasat. Viasat, you've probably used before if you've been on American or Delta and ever done the go-go in-flight Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So they were the ones that developed that. But before that, they were primarily a military-focused company. Any of our assets that are out in foreign territory, Chinooks, tanks, they have a tracking device on them. And they use something called Blue Force Tracker. You can Google this. And it's through Viasat, a satellite constellation that they put in orbit that makes all this possible. Well, Outerlink ended up being the first commercial version of this military-grade satellite constellation. So we had the hardware, they had the software, now we have the connectivity. So we're actually able to see live, and you can see this in our OCC, our Operational Control Center. I've been over there
and seen it. It's impressive.
We know exactly where every one of those 175 aircraft are every 10 seconds, and it's backfilled to the second.
Wow.
So we can tell you how high they are, how fast they're going, their heading, how much fuel they have on board. So the top three killers in our industry haven't changed in 50 years. It's still controlled flight into terrain, double IMC, which is a fancy FAA way of saying flying into the clouds without planning on it. It's what killed Kobe Bryant, by the way.
Really?
And then poor fuel management, believe it or not. Why pilots fly perfectly good aircraft out of gas, nobody knows, but it's one of the top three killers. So that's why we have how much fuel they have.
So
on
your
board.
operations center right there in Shreveport, Louisiana off North Market sees all 127 of those aircraft and what all that data right there.
That's right. And if there's ever an in-flight emergency, we actually can drill down on that aircraft and open up the pipeline and see everything. We have a synthetic display of all the cautions and warnings. So if in a helicopter, you can get something called a chip light. It's when the machine is actually making metal. You don't want that to happen. So it usually means you
got a problem.
Land immediately. So we can see if there's a chip light or if there's an oil pressure issue. All of that in real time in the OCC. 60% of the time, if something like that happens, the OCC actually sees it before the pilot sees it.
Right. He's a little busy.
He's got eyes out, right? So we actually become the second in command because all of our operations are single pilot, right? So there's not another pilot. There's not a co-pilot like there are in the airlines.
So you're a co-pilot from the ground.
So the OCC is the co-pilot.
Yeah,
wow.
And they
right
can
there off
and-
North Market.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it
So-
is.
That's
I mean,
incredible.
it looks like something at NASA when you go over there, okay?
Yeah.
Because you can see any aircraft that's in the air, they can see it right there, and all those things are going on
So
right
the
there.
technology of hospitals using helicopters like they do today is not that old then.
Yeah, the first one was in the 70s in Colorado, and it actually got its inspiration. Y'all remember the TV show and the movie MASH?
Yep.
So
Oh, yeah.
Korean War, they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
strapping them to the skid of an OH-57 and flying them to the tent.
Yeah.
So that's what gave this whole industry its inspiration. They're like, we really ought to do this in the civilian world. And at our air medical conference that happens every year, they have a MASH bash.
Oh, cool.
So everybody shows up in their camo and their dog tags and remembers the old days, you
How
know?
cool.
Oh, wow. And a lot of people don't realize at Metro Aviation, if you go back there in the back, you're doing everything from painting them.
Yep.
I mean, I remember seeing one of those German aircraft, it was just a shell.
That's right.
You take it all the way down to the bare basics.
Well, that's what it comes
you
from the
rebuild,
manufacturer,
and you
right?
rebuild it into an air ambulance.
That's right. And on the completion side, we're agnostic. We don't just do EMS. That's the majority of what we do, but we also do law enforcement. So y'all remember when they caught the Boston bomber,
Oh, yeah.
Boston Marathon
Yeah,
bomber?
yeah.
So that was a Massachusetts State Police EC-135. They've got about 4 of them. We completed all those aircraft right here in Shreveport. So they equipped that aircraft with something called a FLIR system, forward-looking infrared. That's how they caught him. That's how they saw through where the boat was.
Right.
That's a FLIR system. It's about an $800,000 camera that's mounted on the skid.
So
and they've
it
got
can tell somebody's under that cover.
it's heat signature, right? They can see
cool.
through the walls and see that there's a guy hiding in a boat.
Yeah.
That all happened right here in Shreveport, man.
Dude,
So,
that's so cool.
Yeah,
Don.
every day when you're on North Market and you see those helicopters, that's probably somebody test flying,
Yep.
you know, something y'all put back together.
I mean, it's amazing. I have a daughter that had an accident in Mena, Arkansas, out on a piece of land, and it was a horrible accident. And my wife and her got airvac to Little Rock.
Okay.
And she probably wouldn't have made it without that helicopter.
well, that
So
was
it
probably Baptist Children's.
yeah, it was.
No, I'm sorry. Baptist is the adult hospital.
It was the Children's
Arkansas.
in Little Rock,
Okay,
yeah.
that's not us. That's actually, they have their own Part 135, but we know those people.
But that technology to change
Oh, yeah.
is saving lives every day.
Absolutely.
I mean, and the fact that the Shreveport, Louisiana
Yeah.
has a big part in that is,
Yeah.
is incredible, man.
Yeah, and it's
We're all
right here, and
thankful
most
for that.
people don't realize what Metro Aviation is, and it's a international business run right out here in Shreveport. But what I'm really excited about is that you took your technology, an outer link, and the Department of Defense did not have that technology.
No, the B-52.
Yeah, they were out there flying around doing whatever they think they're doing,
Yeah.
and they had no idea.
Yeah. So we got to know that this is kind of an interesting story. So Warren Carroll, who's a B-52 pilot, he's been flying for 25 years, lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. I got to know him on the soccer field, of all things. We were talking about this earlier. His oldest and my oldest were on the same team at Cabosa. And we were just talking on the sidelines one day, and I'm like, hey, B-52, like you ought to come see what we're doing, kind of like with Don.
Yeah.
And you know, and as soon as I introduced him and he kind of got ingrained, well, he works for us now.
Yep.
And he's introduced us to a lot of 3- and 4-star generals in the Air Force, and they got to know us. And of course, Dad has done some amazing things with them. And the B-52 will have Iris.
That's correct.
And the really ironic thing
cool.
about this, and I don't know, we might have to edit this out later, but the B-52, y'all know it's been around for 60 years. But as they've upgraded it, the communications has not kind of kept pace with what the rest of the world's doing. They don't have beyond line of sight communications in the B-52, and they're sending this thing across the pond, right, to Afghanistan
That's
and
right.
everywhere.
When it leaves, it's got one set of orders.
That's right. And so we figured out that we didn't want to poke another hole in the fuselage, so there's actually a port that they used for all things a sextant. Y'all know what a sextant is?
I do, for navigation. You know, you see the
Christopher
gun.
Columbus used this to get from Spain to the Newfoundland, you know,
Yeah.
and using the stars.
Yeah.
That is right.
So the irony is we're going to use the port that they used to use for a sextant to mount an antenna to put iris on there, which is
cool.
current technology, right?
Wow.
So we went from the 1700s to 2025, you know, using a port that was used
Well,
to see
matter of fact,
the
you
stars.
guys won the first Air Force Strat 5, you know, which
Yes.
is a big contract.
the SBIR contract, yeah.
SBIR contract to actually take your technology, commercial technology developed right here in Shreveport, Louisiana, and put it in the B-52.
That's right.
And I use that as an example of, look, most people don't even realize what's happening in Shreveport.
Yeah, I was going to say,
We keep a low profile.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, we
You
gotta
do.
ask this.
By design.
people always say, oh yeah, when your business works or takes off or you're growing, you can't do that from Shreveport. You got to move it to Dallas. You
Not
got to
true.
move it to, yeah, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, come see us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
that is not true. And there's got to be some advantages to not being in those.
Look, we've got almost 300 people of the almost 1,200 that we employ that call Shreveport Bossier home. And we were faced with a decision back in early 2000s. We were kind of outgrowing our footprint. We were at the downtown airport when we moved up here from Baton Rouge. And you can go out there to this day and see all the different hangars we were in and places where we added on other shops and different color metal. It was all kind of discombobulated, but we needed everything under one roof. Well, y'all know at the airport, you don't own the ground, right? The most you can hope for is about a 25 or 30 year lease. But even then it has a reversion clause that any improvements you make go to the airport.
That's correct.
So we're kind of faced with this tough dilemma. Like, do we stay here? Do we move? And it was an easy decision because so many people that work for us are from here. And these are folks that started either in an auto body shop or sweeping the floor, like Ken Alford. He's our engine shop manager. Like, he's running the whole engine shop, and he started with a paint gun in his hand, you know, and worked his way through. We would eliminate all those positions if we moved to somewhere like Dallas or Atlanta, you know, some of these bigger hubs where you have
And you pay a
more.
lot more.
But yeah, the cost of living, but the decision was easy because so many people call Metro home and call Shreveport home, and it's a great place to do business.
And
I'm tired of hearing that narrative.
Me too. We
Yeah.
have to kill that narrative.
Absolutely.
I mean, the story that you're at the soccer game and you meet a guy and it leads to a contract with B-52s with the
Right.
that fights against the idea. Well, you're not going to meet the right people. You're not going to. Well,
Yeah.
you met the right. I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah, we've got so many little hidden gems here. I mean, Andrew Crawford is a good friend of mine. Like that's a great story. You know, there's
It
so
is.
many stories like that.
Right.
We've got to quit talking about our town in a bad light.
Absolutely.
you know?
We're our worst enemy.
Absolutely.
I say it all the time on this podcast. We got to stop bashing Shreveport and ourselves and take credit for the fact that it is a great place to be, and it is a great place to do business. I mean, your dad did it right here. He built this business. Now he's handed it to you. And you
That's
can build
awesome, man.
build a capability to do that. Well, Todd, this has been great. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely,
We really
man.
appreciate
Yeah, we
you
really
Thanks for
telling
having
us
me,
the
man.
stories.
We'll shout it from the mountaintops anytime we can do it, man. So I
Man,
appreciate
great
it.
to see you,
love it.
man.
Yeah, you too.
Thank
Matt,
you, Todd.
thank you,
So
buddy.
nice to
Yeah.
see you.
Enjoy the podcast? We would love your feedback about today's show and who you think should be our next guest. Send us an email at info@eapla.com. Also, be sure to share the show and leave a comment on our social media post.